Quick note, I've been streaming every single day on Twitch, so if you want to see me live or catch me live, go check out my Twitch link in the description down below. Anyway, welcome back to another Origin Showcase video. In this Origin Showcase video, we're going over the Sakuya version 2.5 Origin created by the Discord user known as 𝓵𝓲𝓷𝓴𝓼 from the Origin's Discord server. This Origin has been created for version 1.17/version 1.17.1. It will work perfectly fine in those two versions as long as you have an up-to-date version of the Origin's mod, as well as every other mod that you might potentially use in Origin. This may or may not work in 1.16 as a data pack. Again, it may or may not break. I can't be 100% sure because it's not intended for that, so it's up to you to test that and potentially see if things break. But either way, let's get into the actual Origin itself. The Sakuya Izayoi Origin is a 3 impact Origin, meaning it has the maximum amount of impact on the game. By the way, I probably butchered that name by a long shot. Whilst manipulating space-time, the mysterious maid from Scarlet Devil Mansion somehow messed up and ended up in this new world. Anyhow, there's over 116,000 of returning viewers, people who watch more than one of my videos, and I highly appreciate if any of you guys would hit the subscribe button and maybe a part of the 40,000 gang. Also, massive thank you for 30,000 subscribers. We're roughly hitting that right as I'm recording that, or like right before this video is meant to go out. It's like very close as I'm recording it. Moving into your first ability, you've got Illusion Sign Killing Doll. Throw a knife forward, then later stop time for a split second to recollect them all. Knives are expensive after all. This ability does make use of another ability which will be featured a little bit later on, but going over this ability on its own, this ability has a total of 19/20 arrows that you can actually shoot before the ability will reset itself. Knives, whatever you want to call them. It gives you the arrow firing noise when you shoot them, and it doesn't, I have no idea how the actual damage gets done, because unlike with what other abilities do with this particle effect on them, they normally have a firework that explodes when it lands on something, but it doesn't exactly work like that with this ability. I don't know how that quite works precisely, but I can tell you that it will indefinitely go through mobs. It will just only go a certain distance. For example, I put a max amount of chickens into a hole until anti-cramming came in, which is around 22, and I shot 2 knives and killed all 22 chickens inside of that hole. This ability has the ability to go through multiple mobs, and by the looks of it, it seems to have no cap to how many mobs it will go through before it stops going through them. By testing the ability's damage with the Straw Dummy mod, I learned this only does around 3 HP of damage, which on average is less than half the damage of a normal bow at maximum pull, showing that this ability is pretty damn weak. You can shoot it in quick succession, but it's still overall really weak. Moving to the next ability, we've got a Broken Description, which by my guess is here, and by testing it seems to be just you have no ability to use a shield whatsoever. You understand this by now. Pretty simple, just the description's kind of broken. Moving on, just a quick clarification for the first ability. It uses your primary ability key, and the actual ability takes just a split second to recharge. It doesn't actually include any of the actual time abilities. Moving to the next one, you've got Wound Sign Red Soul. Hack anything you attack to pieces with multiple knife swings that is sure to leave a mark. This ability is weird to say the least. Just take a listen to what you hear when you use this ability. Honestly don't know what quite to think of it. Normally I would actually get an accurate read on how much damage this ability does, because it doesn't actually show up with the HP damage on the straw damage. It does do damage, but another weird thing that also happens when you use this ability, it will also slow down whatever entity that you hit it with. As you can see with how funky and weird this Iron Golem gets after I use this ability on it, which, don't tell me, please tell me this is not the most cursed thing you've ever seen chasing after you in Minecraft. Like, what in the world has happened to this Iron Golem? It has gone spastic, just waving, so it's weird, but this ability is cool. This uses your secondary ability key, which is naturally not binded to anything, meaning you have to bind it yourself, but this uses your secondary key, and you'll understand in just a moment why you need to know precisely how to use each ability by key. Moving to the next ability of the Conjuring, Internal Meek, rapidly flinging multiple knives forward. It's out of desperation, only you know. This ability is activated by holding shift and your primary ability at the same time, which will activate a burst of knife fire. But one little thing to keep in mind when it comes to this ability, when you do use it, you will float up by a few blocks, meaning that you will need to aim yourself to be looking down towards your entity that you want to hit. Another thing that will happen, once you reach the full height that you're going to go, your camera will also be locked in its current position, so if you're not looking at the entity correctly and you're missing, you're unable to correct it until the ability is over. Now this piece of information here is pretty important to know, as this is how you get access to the other mode of abilities, which is required by swapping modes by using your shift and secondary key at the same time. You'll be able to know what mode you're in by what it says above your HUD. In knife mode it will say knife mode above your HUD, and in time mode it will say time mode. Pretty easy to understand, right? You just see it above your HUD where your actual cooldowns are, you see which mode you're in, and by changing it you can go by shift, secondary key, and you can change your modes. Anyhow, let's move into the time mode. A big note to keep in mind whenever you want to use this mode: hitting a knife will give you 4% of the time gauge, punching an entity will give you 7% on cooldown, and being hit yourself will take away 4% of the time gauge itself. You'll be able to tell what area your time gauge is at roughly by the actual clock or yellow bar that will be on your cooldown screen almost all the time. You'll see this slowly fill up as you hit knives, as you do many different things in your knife mode. Basically, when you go to time mode, this will start to tick down slowly, and using any of the abilities in time mode will actually take a huge chunk of the gauge, which we'll go over now. Moving into your first ability of time mode, you have the 𝓵𝓲𝓷𝓴𝓼. This is your secondary ability, requiring you to use your secondary key. This will take 15% of your time gauge on each use, and it has a short period of cooldown time as well. You throw a pocket watch that, if hit, allows you to stop time for the thing hit by it for a short amount of time. When you use this ability on an entity, it will stop time for said entity for around about in the ballpark area of around 5 seconds. You can easily tell when time is stopped because they won't move whatsoever. Also, another weird side effect of this is they will not take any form of knockback at the same time as well. So you hit them with a max knockout knockback sword, they will not actually move anywhere, and this effect won't actually be used after they become unfrozen. They just go back to acting like they normally would. Moving to the next ability, you've got Sakuya's World. Primary ability, which is a 30% of your time gauge will go using this ability. Imagine being limited to the flow of time. Stop time around you in a certain radius and have some fun. Now, at first glance, this ability seems very overpowered, but I can tell you now that it only has a radius of around 3 to 4 blocks around you. So if any mob's like more than 4 blocks away from you, they won't get affected by this ability whatsoever. Hence the reason why you have your second ability, which on this time mode, which you can use to directly stop them from moving as well. This ability's time stop only lasts about as long as what the ability for the main secondary ability lasts as well. So it's still roughly around 5 seconds that they will be frozen in time for, with around a 3-4 block radius around your character when you press your primary ability. This does take a huge chunk of your time gauge, around 30% as already mentioned. So overall, it's an ability that could be useful, maybe not, maybe it could be. Moving into your last ability within the time mode, you have Last Resort. By holding shift and primary ability at the same time, you'll use 45% of your time gauge, almost half of it, to stop the flow of time for 3 seconds. This has no limit on where it will actually stop the time. It will just straight up stop time for 3 seconds in every loaded chunk. This will also allow you to heal to full health, but this ability has a massive cooldown. The ability has roughly a 1-minute cooldown, which is pretty okay to say the least. It does take up a huge chunk of your time bar, which doesn't require you to use at least a full clip of your knives in order to get back that bar that you just used for the ability. So overall, I think it might be potentially balanced. But moving on to your next ability, you've got the shield ability. Now, whilst you're unable to use normal shields at all, you do have the ability to have an ability-based shield, which is activated by pressing F or your swap hand off key button, which pretty much just swaps whatever key, whatever hand your actual item is in. So just throws into your offhand, which is normally bounded to F. Using this, a button will actually activate a shield in front of you. This will make you much slower than before, and you're also unable to use any of your powers or attack anything while this is there. This also isn't invulnerability because it's just resistance, meaning that you can still take damage, you'll just take a decreased amount of damage while this ability is on, but you're unable to deal any damage back or use your abilities whatsoever. It is a really high resistance though, so you may not even be hurt by anything whatsoever, but every time you get hit, this will consume a part of your time gauge, but it won't deactivate when your time gauge is decreased entirely, so use at your own risk. Either way, let's quickly rapid fire through the cons. These are all pretty basic. You should all understand these type of things by now. There's no uniqueness in here. You got no ability to use cooked food. Eating any cooked food would mean that it's not prepared for the mistress when you find a way back home, which would be irresponsible. Hard working, you still have work to do. Don't waste time by sleeping, which just means no sleeping. You got Elegant, wearing armor isn't elegant, is it? Which means you just can't wear armor whatsoever. And also fragile, you have 2 less hearts and you also take double damage. Now you see why this shield thing's actually pretty useful to have a stupid high resistance, because you already take double damage as it is. You want to be taking as little damage as you possibly can with this origin. So the shield ability kind of help counters the fragile ability that you have. Either way, this origin is by far one of the most unique and interesting origins that I've covered so far, with the new ways of trying to take advantage of abilities and having multiple different types of abilities and having the ability to swap modes as well without actually needing the extra keybinds mod. This makes use of only the normal origins keybinds, as well as by using other keys that combine with it in order to use other potential abilities and swap abilities as well, which honestly I feel like is a really cool and I think well executed ability slash origin. The concept is really nice, as well as the execution of it is really well. I personally don't know if it sticks true to what it is based off of, because I have no idea what Scarlet Devil Mansion is, but I do see the potential and how cool this is. So let me know, what do you think of this origin? Do you think it's good? Do you think it's overpowered? Do you think it's unpowered? Let me know in the comments, as you always think. And to those people who do know where this actually originates from, let me know. Do you think it's a really well inspired one? Do you think it executes on the inspiration well? Do you think it's bad at doing that? Let me know in the comments down below. Either way, I've been 𝓵𝓲𝓷𝓴𝓼. Thank you very much for watching. Smash the like, smash subscribe. Massive thank you to my channel members, my special $25 channel members Hollow the Void and Saturn, as well as my $10 channel member 𝓼𝓴𝓼. And until next time guys, goodbye.